Hey, I'm Todd Brown, and I make these videos because I want you to rip on race day. I am Todd Brown, your presenter, president of Pedal Industries, and I have on the Zoom with me today, Brad Keys. And Brad, tell us a little bit about yourself.
A little about myself. Well, let's see. I like to ride bikes. I've been riding bikes for a long time, 30 plus years, I think. I have a degree in American Studies, which goes a long way in sports nutrition.
Right. So Brad, you and I met, I feel like we've met before, and I'm not sure where. I know we have a bunch of friends in common, and I know that we have for sure Bryson Perry in common. I think Bryson told me about Carbo Rocket way back when. So where, like, is Carbo Rocket your brainchild? Is it something you came up with? How did that originate?
Yeah, it's my baby. It's been something I've been working on. Well, it's been an actual thing since 2008, 2009.
Okay.
I'm getting old. My memory doesn't serve me super well, but I was working on it maybe a couple of years before then. Like I said earlier, been racing mountain bikes for 30 plus years since, like, I started mountain biking in 1989, maybe.
Okay.
And literally got right into racing, boom, right away. Just jumped right in and have raced mountain bikes every single year since then. But in the early days, I would get sick and literally vomit at every single race I ever entered. It just was par for the course.
Were you nervous, or what was it?
No. I would just push myself so hard. I would just vomit. I would just make myself sick.
Okay.
It was just par for the course. I had no idea why or what, but I knew that if I'm going to go to a mountain bike race, I'm going to get sick eventually. I'm going to vomit, and I'm going to be curled up in a ball on the couch for the rest of the day and totally useless, right? It took me a while to figure out that it was just what I was eating and drinking, I think. Okay. So I just started working on, I've had a lot of help, by the way. Like I said earlier, I have a degree in American Studies. So I
your lab coat when you say that.
I knew what something needed to do and also what I didn't want it to do. Mm-hmm. So I have some friends who are nutritionists and exercise physiologists. So I had a lot of help creating something just for me, right? I didn't start this out trying to make a business out of it. That was not it at all. I was literally just trying to solve my problem.
That is, can I just pause you right there? Because
yeah.
I think that is where the best things that we create come from. Like, we have a personal problem that we're trying to solve.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to hear you say, I was just trying to solve my problem.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Just trying to solve my problem. I just didn't want to be sick and useless all weekend on the couch.
Right.
And I didn't want to stop racing bikes because I absolutely love it. Anyway, long story short, came up with something that really worked well for me.
Was this an off-the-shelf product, or just
no,
kitchen chemist?
20 years ago, there was like 3 or 4 products you could probably think of. It really wasn't that much.
Only one I could think of is Cytomax, and I loved that.
So, yeah, Cytomax, exactly. I mean, it just make me sick. Everything did. So I came up with something that worked for me, used it, had great success. I stopped getting sick. It was fantastic. And, and I was just mixing it myself, buying some products in bulk or whatever, and just mixing up enough for myself. Yeah. And I started sharing it with some of my friends, and they enjoyed it. They liked it. And one day the local bike shop called me and said, "Hey, can we get 10 buckets or whatever of your product?" And I'm like, no, you can't. I
Seriously?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't have anything for sale. And then that kind of planted the seed, right? I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe let's order some more product. Let's get some bigger bags of stuff in here. And
what were you? Can I pause you right there? What were you doing for a living at that time? Like,
Oh, like I said, I have a degree in American Studies, which you can
Yeah,
do a lot. You can do a lot with, right?
right. Yeah,
I was actually,
sure.
I was in the
Not
mortgage.
limiting.
I was in the mortgage business for
Okay.
20 years.
Okay. Yeah, because I think it's interesting. Again, another thing is you have this career over here, but this need all of a sudden shifts you completely different from a service business to a manufacturing business.
Well, there's some more backstory to that for
Okay.
sure, for sure. So anyway, I was in the mortgage business forever, racing bikes. Um, Bike shop called. It was kind of around that time, 2006, 7, 8, kind of when the real estate market just went to hell.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Yeah. Um, and all of a sudden, a local bike shop calls, "Hey, can we get this?" I'm like, "No, you can't. I just make this stuff for myself, share it with some buddies." But at the same time, I'm thinking, wow, I think right now would be a really good time to exit this career I've been on for a
Yeah.
long time, try something new. Hey, let's try this. And so I'm like, yes, you know what? We're going to do something. So brainstorm, came up with a name, literally bought enough product to mix
Was
like, I don't
was Carbo Rocket the first name?
know. No, I technically, yes,
Okay.
it was the very first name that we branded and sold with some labels and whatnot. Um, so yeah, that was kind of that was the first name.
Okay.
Um, anyway, literally rolled a big 50-gallon water container around my basement with all the ingredients. That's how I mixed it. I'm like,
That's like
I'm not doing that again.
those are uh like for food storage, right? Like
Yes,
one of those
yes,
things.
big 50-gallon blue things.
You're
Yeah,
rolling it around in the basement
rolling around my
for
basement,
mix.
packaged up 10 jars, 20 jars, whatever for the local bike shop. I'm like, man, I'm never doing that again. Forget that. That is crap. But they sold through it all. A good friend of mine back then also had a really popular cycling blog called The Fat Cyclist. He's
Yes, I remember
big into
that.
Leadville.
What was his
He,
name? I can't remember his name.
Eldon
Eldon.
Nelson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very popular. Yeah.
Yeah, super good friend of mine, still a good friend of mine. He started blabbing about it a little bit. So we got some early internet interest about it. And there was some instant early demand, I guess.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm like, wow, I can't do this in my basement, right? So I found some local contract manufacturers in Utah, and I still work with I work with 3 different contract manufacturers right now, but I still work with the same one who I started with way back then. And they mix and package my product for me.
Utah's unique, and I think like there's a lot of things lining up for you because Utah is the Silicon Valley of multi-level marketing.
It is.
And so there's a lot of suppliers there for that industry, and
Yes.
they sell a lot of powders.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. The three
Amazing. I
different
imagine it's
the
world-class operations in
Oh
that
yeah,
sense.
the three different companies I work with, they mix and package product, not just for multi-level companies,
Sure.
but for like you name it, all the big sports nutrition companies, they're they're doing that,
Yeah,
right?
that's Utah is definitely a place where that happens.
It is. So that's been good. And then once I got connected with those people, they have food scientists, had lots of help with flavoring and all of that stuff, going forward. So that's kind of like my genesis story, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. So I remember Bryson telling me about your product, and there's two things that stuck out in my mind. One, the product name at the time, I think it was Evil,
Well, that's one of the products, yes,
right?
and we still have that. Yeah, half evil,
Half evil.
half evil.
I'm all evil, so I thought it would be all evil. So, which I thought was a brilliant thing. It just like Carbo Rocket's a great name. Half Evil's a great name. The other thing that stuck in my mind, which at the time I think was ahead of the current thinking, was it was a lot of carbohydrates.
Oh yeah, way ahead. Like
Let's talk
the
about
whole
that.
marketing back then was like no, 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 and like just recently in the last year or two, it's like all these new companies and products. I'm like, man, that's half evil right there. I'm looking at the ingredients. I'm like, that's my product, and you just have a different name.
So let's what did it say that? Let's rewind and tell people like what was it like when you started, and then what was Half Evil? Like what are we talking about here in terms of like carbohydrates or calories? You know, break
Well,
it down for
okay, so the
people
very
who are
first product was just our original Carbo Rocket, just a really light, relatively low calorie hydration electrolyte drink. About 100 calories in your water bottle,
typical.
but really high on the electrolytes. 350 plus milligrams of sodium, but not designed or formulated to be your only fuel source. Definitely something to work with other calorie sources if you're out for longer than like 90 minutes. That was
Mhm.
that was the first product.
Okay.
And then pretty quickly jumped into formulating the second product, which was the Half Evil. And that has really become our flagship and our bestseller.
And so how many calories are in that bottle?
Well,
Like if you were to mix a bottle,
it's called Half Evil, so there's 333 calories per serving.
because that's half of 666.
Exactly.
I
And
never got that till just now. That's awesome.
you're not the first one. Everybody's like, why do you call it Half Evil? And I just look at them kind of funny. I point at the number, and they're like, okay. That's how
Yeah,
many
very
calories
clever.
are in a serving.
So, the thinking today is definitely caught up to that, and it's now, I'm reading it's 400 calories per hour. Um, where are you these days on like what are you doing personally? Because you race, right? We raced last weekend
Yeah, I
at
race every
Sagebrush.
weekend if I can. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So when you're racing, what are you, Brad, trying to consume per hour? Do you have a benchmark?
Uh, it depends, a lot on the weather, right? If it's hot out, I'm going to be drinking a lot more. Um, I target a full serving like 333 calories an hour. I don't always get that in.
Mm-hmm.
We were at Sagebrush Safari last weekend, and it was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, my phone was just low on battery there. Um, and I was prepared for 333 calories an hour. I think I only ended up doing about 220 per hour, but it was a 3-hour race. That was fine, not a problem. If it
So
would have been a 6-hour race and I'd
yeah,
only taken that much in, I might have been in trouble towards the end, but I was fine.
sure. So I've been trying to do 400 per hour, and so I took I had two of your mixes with me, one with flavor, one with no flavor, which was great because you know in the old days, if you wanted to mix 300 calories, you better have a pretty bomb-proof uh, taste buds. It was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
overwhelming.
yeah,
And that's what I really liked about your no flavor version is you can dial it up as much as you want.
yeah. I'm just moving over here so I can plug my phone in.
All good.
But anyway, yeah, no, um, and again, that's what I go for. I've made that product for me to consume 333 calories an hour. But I have clients and customers who can ride all day on 150 calories an hour, and I have customers, some big dudes who are really into Ironman triathlons, and those guys are putting away 600 calories an hour, no problem, all day. So
All
everybody's
liquid, all liquid
so
on Carbo Rocket.
all liquid, yes. So everybody just it's so different, right?
True.
What
Yeah.
works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. But and over time, everybody kind of figures that out for themselves. I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to learn as an endurance athlete is, hey man, where what do I need to do per hour? Because we're all different. There's no magic number.
Right. So you mentioned it was fairly cool last weekend. So I typically run a 26-ounce bottle, regardless of how much water I want to carry. And so I didn't fill those up, but they were full on calories.
Okay.
Because if it was hot, you'd want to drink a bottle an hour, maybe a bottle and a half an hour,
Right.
but not necessarily 1.5x your calorie intake. So there's a little bit of mad chemist in all of us when we're making our drinks.
That's true, and it doesn't matter how well you prepare that before the race, how you execute it, it almost never works out. But as long as you're close, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It doesn't know, you can't spend the emotional energy on.
You're not gonna execute it exactly, but as
Yeah.
long as you're there, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So is Half Evil your on the bike or running your event formula? Is there
Yes.
anything else for event, like when you're actually doing the exercise?
That is all I use.
Okay.
I do a lot of 4 to 6 hour kind of racing, and
Mhm.
I do not eat or drink anything but the 333.
But just drink that.
Yeah.
What about pre-race?
Pre-race, I'll use our Rocket Red formula, which is it's kind of it's a natural vasodilator, kind of a, let's call it a pre-race, get you ready to go. Opens up your blood vessels, helps get oxygen to your working muscles, as well as it also helps flush lactic acid, so you can work out longer and harder. And but I don't take that during. That is definitely like an hour before an event. So we've got that, and then afterward, we also have a recovery drink with some protein and glucose.
So on the red, are there key ingredients that people would recognize?
Well, beet juice, obviously, there's probably one of the most
Very
tried and
popular right now.
tested
Yeah.
ingredients for endurance athletes to kind of help set it apart from other beet juice products. We've added some tart cherry and pomegranate juice, and that goes a long way in the flavor department. Like it actually tastes good
Versus,
as opposed to just straight up beet juice.
right, sure.
We've also added some beta alanine and some L-citrulline malate as well. Uh, just both ingredients to help with the endurance. But the effects of that product last about 3 hours.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, so it is. One of the questions I get a lot is, "Hey, can I take it again during an event?" Absolutely. Yeah, you can
If you
take.
were doing Leadville, you might take that midway or something.
Yes, you can. And I actually have a bunch of really fast customers who put a scoop of that in with their 333 and swear by it. I've never tried it drinking it during an event like that, but they put it in every bottle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. I have not tried that yet. I'm looking forward to that. For sure. And you said about an hour before and post race, what are you doing for that?
We have our rehab product, which is whey isolate with a bunch of glucose. So, I mean, when what you're doing, you're just blowing through your glycogen when you're out there, right? I mean, that's what the 333 is doing. You are continually replenishing your glycogen as you're blasting through it during an event. And so the rehab is just a really fast way to replenish those glycogen stores. It also has some whey isolate to help build your muscle afterward. I think the most unique thing about our rehab product, and I don't know if you've had a chance to try it yet, but it is, and I think I told you this at Sagebrush. It's far and away the best tasting protein recovery drink that you'll ever have. I
It was the
stand by that
coconut.
statement.
It was the coconut that got me.
Yeah, it's so good. It also comes in an horchata flavor as well.
So I had chocolate coconut, and then there's which I love horchata.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so and are you doing that after every ride? After only
No,
the hard rides?
I mean you could. I use it, like the last few days. I mean, I'm in SoCal where you are now. It's been kind of rainy. I've just been out for some easy spins, and I had 2 races last weekend, so I'm not doing anything too hard this week. I'm just going out, spinning my legs, riding. I'm not taking that when I get done. If I have an interval workout or a super long, hard day, absolutely, I'm going to take a serving or two of that when I get done.
Awesome. So I was thinking about this today. This might be a little bit off your expertise, but do you have any thoughts on how much water people should be drinking during the day? Not on the bike, not just, I see all these challenges and people are like, oh, you got to drink a gallon. I see the gallon of water a day, and I see these muscular guys like walking all over the place with their giant jugs. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, Not really, I guess. I mean, I drink quite a few liquids during the day. And again, it depends on the temperature and whatnot, but I'm not like targeting trying to drink a gallon of water every single day.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's
And,
interesting.
and I think especially as an endurance athlete, if you're just pounding a gallon of water every day, you might run into some problems of, you're flushing out all your electrolytes,
Right. Yeah.
It, it
That's
could be bad. It could be bad.
first thing that comes to my mind. Yeah, for sure. All right. So this is super good information for me, and I appreciate that. I think, well, you know what? We have a couple people, and I think they have some questions. I'm going to invite them in.
Okay.
Matt, you there?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions or comments for Brad?
Yeah, couple of things. It's been very interesting listening to this. Very interested in the product. I've never tried it, so this will be a good thing. What I usually run is Scratch Superfuel or Hammer Perpetuum. So, and I know Superfuel has, I can't remember what they call it, but it's something, their source. It goes in the gut and stays together till later down the digestive tract. Does the Half Evil use things like that, or is it just straight sugar?
I'm not familiar. I mean, I've heard of the Scratch Super Fuel, but I'm not familiar with what's in it or what it does exactly. So
Yeah.
I can't really speak to that. The 333 Half Evil is a mixture of glucose and fructose. So you get two different sugars that are working through your system in different ways. So the fructose actually burns really, really slow, and the glucose burns super fast, and they go through different pathways in your gut. So that's how you're able to digest so many calories per hour, is they're being digested through different pathways in your gut. So
Excellent.
I'm not familiar with whatever Scratch is doing. I don't know what their ingredient is there. So
Yeah. Okay. Also, another thing is, I mean, you often hear people say you got to train your gut, just like you train your body. You have to train your gut to take these high levels of carbohydrates.
yeah,
And I did pretty well last year, but man, towards the end of the season, I was, after a long ride or race, I was not fit as a shipmate for hours. I mean, it was, the gastric distress and other things that come with that was extreme. And so this year, on my first long hard ride with a group, I tried it, and same thing. And I thought, oh man, is my gut just balking at this now?
you know what? I do think that people, every product's different, right? But I do think that people get uh, I kind of call it flavor fatigue or product fatigue, where you start out using a product and it works out really well, and all of a sudden you just can't use it anymore. I can't speak to whatever you were using, but I think it's just something that happens. And the one thing I have learned doing this for the last 15 years is just how incredibly different everybody is, and how everybody reacts to different things in different ways. And it does happen. I mean, something might have worked for you on day, this month, and then next month it's just not working anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Last question I have for at the moment is the pre-race formula. Is it caffeinated?
No, zero stimulants. You could take it before bed.
Right. Excellent.
So it doesn't get you all jacked up or anything like that. It just allows you to work out longer and harder.
Yeah, I like that idea of, like you said, you have some racers that put it in every bottle, and if it's not caffeinated, I'll try that. I will.
Yeah, they'll put
I'll give that a shot.
they'll do like just like maybe a half serving of the 333, or two scoops of it, 2/3 of a serving, and then one serving of the Rocket Red per bottle. And well, one of the guys is a national champion, and he swears by it. So it's I personally have never tried it, but I've got a handful of people who use it during their events.
I'll
Yeah.
try it.
I'm going to give that a try soon, mixing the two.
Right on.
Awesome.
Rick, did you have any questions for Brad?
Yeah, real quick background. My most recent event was 2 weeks ago. It was a 100-mile gravel race over. It's the Croatan Buck 50, and I did the Buck, and I made it 75 miles, and started to cramp really hard, to the extent where I had to. That race for the 100-mile is a 60-mile out and back, and then 46-mile out and back. And I just had to turn around and come back because I was out there by myself in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my most recent experience. I'd gone longer than I ever had. I went 4.5 hours before I cramped. And I really want to, that's my big thing. I did not feel bad in any other way. And when I got back, I did not feel drained or trashed. And, by then, because I just eased my way back, my legs were fine.
Yeah.
I just got to figure out a way to go race pace. And I'm almost 65, so I wasn't trying to set any world records, but I was setting a pretty good pace. And so I wasn't killing myself. And so one of the things, because I was looking at your stuff online before getting on tonight, and one of the things that I can't say, the half evil, it talks about to prevent cramping. And I mean, you got good authority on that? I mean, I've been on this race, I was hydrating with Scratch. I have a mule back, so I was trying to drink the equivalent, of a bottle an hour. And I did fairly well on that. And then I was doing hammer gels for my carbs.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I got enough. And so that brings me to my second thing. First of all, if there is something I can take that's going to help me get through the cramps and finish the race. And the second thing is delivery. Because, on a gravel race on that day, thank goodness it wasn't a downpour, but it was wet, and the Forest Service roads were pretty muddy in places. So, it's not like you can just, reach down like on a road bike and grab your bottle. And in fact, using a bottle is almost impossible. So that's the other thing I'm curious about. Is delivery.
Yeah. Cramps are cramps are one of those things that I really don't think any particular thing you take is going to prevent them. I think once you get them, there are certain things you can do that might stop them for a moment, but then they will come back again in an event. From my experience, is as the season progresses, like I'll cramp less and less. I mean, a cramp is basically your body saying, dude, stop. You know what? We hate this. We're not used to this. You're not stopping. We're going to stop you. So like, even though, you felt good, legs felt good, those cramps are saying, we're not quite used to this. And I think as the season goes on, you'll find yourself cramping less and less.
Okay.
Another thing that I've found that I've experimented with, I have had some issues with cramping. I don't know if you drink beer or not.
Usually one a day.
Okay, so stop that like 2 weeks before, and just hydrate. I do alcohol is just not conducive to not cramping. It's
Okay, well, that's good to know. I can do that.
It's interesting. Like, I enjoy beer once in a while, and I've done some. This is just purely anecdotal stuff, right? Typically, I don't cramp at the end of the season. I will cramp up during the beginning of the season. This year, I stopped drinking alcohol the entire month of January and February. I did some really long, hard events. The El Paso Puzzler in Texas, probably the hardest 50-mile mountain bike race I've ever done in my life. And I've been doing this for a long time. And for sure, normally I would cramp up. I'd not been drinking beer at all. And it's like I was blown away, 0 cramps. So back off of the beers, give them up for a week or 2 before a big event. Get back to me. Let me know what you think.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Because I'm not, gotta have my beer. Like I said,
Right.
you have one a day. So that'll be an easy
Still,
change.
it dehydrates you, and
Yeah.
it's alcohol it's a poison, right?
Yep. Yep.
Even
Cool.
one of them. So, but I think that, and as you see your season go on, I think you'll see yourself cramping less and less as your body is accustomed to what you're doing, right? That's what a cramp is. It's just telling you, dude, stop. We don't like this. We're not used to that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and what about delivery? I was on pace to finish the 106. I was on pace to finish it in about 6 hours or so. And so if like the Rocket Red gets you 2.5 to 3.5 hours, it's the kind of thing for me to re-up that.
Yeah.
When I go out on this particular race, when I go out and back 60 miles, that's usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5 hours. That just go ahead and, like, when I come back to the pit area, just go ahead and drink another serving of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll just keep using, I've got I switch hydration packs when I get to that point. And then that's the way I keep getting the hydration in.
Okay.
All right. So Rocket Red, hour before, and then somewhere in the middle, and
3
then
3 to 3.5 hours. If the race is more than that, take it 3 to 3.5 hours.
And then the equivalent of a bottle an hour of Half Evil.
That's what I target. Don't always make it, but that's my goal.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And the other thing is, like, as soon as that gun goes off, when you start, boom, that's your signal to take your first chug of your bottle, man.
Yeah.
You do not wait. Get that going, so you're familiar with that. You know that you need to get that motion in, and then be taking a sip every 5-10 minutes. Don't take all 300 calories in once an hour. Take that in like 10 to 12 times over an hour.
Yeah. And which is the reason why for these gravel races, I use a hydration pack, because when I've got the tube right here, I can grab it, drink it, and for me personally, that's what keeps me going, because otherwise
that's really good. I can't do the hydration pack because I have no way of knowing or measuring what I'm taking in with the pack. So I mix up, depending on the event, 4 to 5 bottles, and I'll just rotate through them. And I know I'm looking at my bottle. Let's see, I've been out here an hour. I'm just about done with my bottle. Perfect. I can measure it that way. And I just have never figured out how to measure my intake when I'm using a bladder.
Sure. How do you carry 4 to 5 bottles?
I got 2 on my bike and 2 in my jersey. I just rotate through them.
Okay.
And that'll get me through 5 hours of racing, 4 to 5 hours. If it's longer than that, I'll take a single serve with me and maybe mix it up, at the last aid station or something.
Okay.
But I start almost all my races with 4 to 5 bottles.
Okay.
And also, Brad does not have to complicate his life with shifters.
That's true.
Mr. Single Speed, huh?
Yeah. That's my other secret weapon.
Yeah, I think that was another thing that you were pushing before it became popular, and it's since maybe middled out a little bit, but you were one of the originals doing Leadville on a single speed, as I recall.
I think I might have been the second or third person to do it on a single speed.
Yeah.
Like back when I was doing it, they didn't have a category, right?
Right.
There was no category. And then me and my friend Kenny, we did it for a number of years, and they eventually added a category.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have often, we're getting a little bit off track here, but I have often thought about Leadville in particular, that would not be necessarily a disadvantage because it would spin your legs out between those big climbs, and the climbs, they're big, but they're, other than Powerline, they're pretty manageable. And
I
so
always tell people it's the same thing, right? Like, you guys on the geared bikes are always pedaling in your hardest gear and pushing yourself as hard as you can the whole time.
yeah.
Where the single speeders, they're chilling out and getting a recovery multiple times during the race.
And plus they are standing where a lot of people on geared bikes never stand.
Right.
And so that gives your legs a chance to work differently than you would seated. You know, if you're really quad dominant when you're out of the saddle, and when you're seated, you can use your hamstrings quite a bit more.
And I think I told you over the weekend that, like, I did back-to-back years at Leadville, one on a geared bike, one on a single speed, and my times were within 1 minute of each other.
Oh my.
That is so crazy.
And the fastest time was actually on the single speed.
That is nuts.
Yeah. So to me, it's like no advantage or disadvantage, just what I like to do.
So, okay, let's just dive into that a little bit. What gear ratio are you running?
It depends on where I am. I try not to mix it up. I don't like swapping gears out. I might as well get a derailleur, right?
Right.
So I try not to change that out. But if I'm in Utah or Colorado, or even down, I've been pleasantly surprised with how climby it is here in the SoCal.
Yeah.
I'm running a 3220. If I'm at a faster course like Cactus Cup, a lot of the Arizona courses are pretty fast and flat.
Yeah.
I'll do a 3218.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's it. I try not to just leave the same gear on all year for the most part.
And are you running that same bike, that Turner that I saw?
No, that's my right now. It's my my California, Arizona bike.
Okay.
My Utah, Colorado bike's Roca Roja. Similar titanium hardtail.
Okay. Interesting.
But with a suspension fork.
Did the bike I saw have a suspension fork?
No.
It was rigid.
Yeah.
Because you had a bottle holder on the fork, right?
I did, yeah.
No.
For bike,
That's another way to
Utah,
carry more bottles.
for bike packing. But
Utah,
I was just packing around a beer.
in Utah, this is more of a gravel race, so maybe you didn't do it, but do you do the Salty Lizard?
No, but I've heard of it, and I want to go do that. And I do lots of gravel stuff. I've done the Crusher and the Tusher multiple times. No, I like the gravel events. I'll be at Unbound this year. Steamboat, I'll be there. BWR coming up in a couple weeks here in California. I'll be there.
You doing those on your single speed?
I haven't been on a geared bike in 20 years.
So you're just showing up on your flat bar single speed doing BWR?
I have a drop bar.
Drop bar single speed.
Gravel bike single speed.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do Salty Lizard. Look into Salty Lizard. Maybe I'll see you there this year.
Yeah, I need to go check it out. I know those guys.
Bobby?
Yeah. It's always on a weekend where I'm like out of town.
All righty. Well, Brad, super grateful for your time and the information.
Hey,
I learned
yeah.
something. I'll write this up for those that want to know. I will write this up on the blog. We'll probably have some sort of special offer for y'all, so you want to read that.
Sure.
And anybody else want to add anything before we sign off here?
No.
Lots of
good work.
Thanks, Brad.
Dude, thanks, guys. Good to meet Matt and Rick.
Yeah.
Todd, thanks for the invite, and we'll probably see you at BWR. Yeah,
I'll be at Vail Lake at US Cup if you're racing this weekend.
Yeah, I got to head back to Utah to check on the warehouse.
Okay. It's good to check on the warehouse.
No racing this weekend, but soon enough.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see you soon.
Right on, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hey everybody, these podcasts and vlogs are new for Pedal Industries, so if you're enjoying them, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. Thanks so much. Keep challenging yourself.